Hello and welcome to HITC Sport. Right, the season is pretty much done and dusted and your club have conceded a bunch of goals. So let's narrow it down and find the worst footballer who managed to score past your keepers this season. The footballers you wouldn't have dreamed in a million years would be good enough to grab themselves a goal. The ones you're actually embarrassed to admit that yes, you have conceded against them. Right, let's take a look. Arsenal, Marcus Edwards. Okay lads, I'm not gonna lie, there's been a bunch of bang average footballers who found a way past Arsenal's keepers this season. The fact that they've conceded a winning goal to at least Mousse, a fella whose Premier League career is about as impressive as a bag full of barbershop hair, that's pretty embarrassing, as is conceding an actual human goal to a largely incompetent Tom Cleverley of Watford back in September. That fella probably has trouble tying his goddamn shoelaces, never mind posing an actual goal threat. But no, the winner of this award is Marcus Edwards, a 21-year-old winger from Enfield whose Tottenham career lasted about as long as Billy Wingrove's. Chewed up and spat out of the academy, having flopped on loan at Norwich. This season opened the scoring in the Emirates in October, netting for Vitória de Guimarães in a 3-2 defeat in the Europa League. I'd imagine that was quite embarrassing. Aston Villa, Ryan Wintle. Okay, where do you want to start? Aston Villa's defence has been largely non-existent for most of the season. The likes of Alan Webster, Shane Long, Dwight Gale, they've all got on the score sheet against your team, but standing above them all is 23-year-old Geordie midfielder Ryan Wintle. I'm guessing most of you are thinking who or what is that? It was an EFL second round game back in late August, and to be fair, he only scored for Crewe Alexandra when they were already 5-0 down. I'm guessing the celebrations were fairly muted. Bournemouth, Nathan Broadhead. Yeah, here's another leaky defence which is probably about to be sent in Silver League football. That's what happens when you stick static candles in your back four. I know a couple of broken microwaves who could outrun Simon Francis. Again, back into the EFL Cup when Eddie Howe's team were slapped around 2-0 by Burton Albion, a concept that Sunderland fans are all too familiar with. Listen, Nathan Broadhead might turn out to be a decent player for Everton, but considering he's a 22-year-old striker who's just spent the season scoring twice on loan for Burton Albion in League 1, I'm guessing if Luke Garbutt is anything to go by, Carlo Ancelotti probably has no idea that it even exists. Brighton, Tom Nichols. Yeah, second round of the EFL Cup. Brighton wound up sneaking through 2-1 at Bristol Rovers, but yes, conceded an equaliser to 25-year-old striker Tom Nichols. For a centre forward, this guy's goal scoring ratio is almost tragic. 4 league goals in 93 games for Bristol Rovers. You find better end product of a goddamn left back. He's currently at Cheltenham Town and that's where he's going to stay, unless he chucks it in and becomes a postman, and you know what? I wouldn't blame him. Burnley, Tom Flanagan. Okay lads, I'll admit it, I haven't made it a habit of sitting down to watch Sunderland on a weekly basis. To be fair, I'd rather scrub my eyes with a pencil sharpener, but I did watch both seasons of Sunderland till I die, and one of the main things I learned, other than the fact that the club makes a habit of filling the boardroom with Southern David Brents, was that Tom Flanagan is unable to play football. Good Christ, this 28-year-old centre half is in the prime of his career and getting ruled by strikers from Lincoln City and Gillingham. I'd rather chuck a toaster onto that pitch than Tom Flanagan, so the fact Burnley were dumped out of the EFL Cup, losing 3-1 at home to Sunderland, a game in which Flanagan scored. Listen, when Joe Hart was saving penalties against Lionel Messi in 2015, this fella was a 23-year-old defender stuck on the Plymouth Argyle bench. He probably didn't envision ever playing against the then England #1, never mind scored against him. Chelsea, Matt Green. Okay, the fact Frank Lampard watched a Sheffield United bench warmer and Callum Robinson find his way to goal at Stamford Bridge, that was probably enough to make him want to mentally cancel Kurt Zouma. Dan Gosling netting a Stamford Bridge winner must have felt like being punched in the throat, while conceding 2 against David McGoldrick. Yeah, Lampard probably felt like dumping his defence on a bonfire. But no, the winner is 33-year-old journeyman centre forward striker Matt Green. Sure, Chelsea ripped Grimsby Town apart 7-1 in the EFL Cup, but this centre forward, a guy whose only other goals this season came against Colchester and Port Vale, this guy actually got on the score sheet against a Premier League winning goalie. Good on him. Crystal Palace, Chris Martin. Alright, taking a break from the EFL Cup for a second, let's return to the FA Cup third round. Listen lads, Derby County made an absolute mess of promotion this season, but they did manage to squeeze past top flight opposition in January. Chris Martin scored the only goal at Sellers Park, and to be fair, compared to some of these lower league journeymen, he's not too bad. The striker, that is, the Coldplay singer, is more insufferable than menstrual cramps. I'm guessing. He's got 17 caps for Scotland, scored over 70 goals for Derby County, but still, he's championship standard at best. Everton, Bruno Andrade. Okay, don't get me wrong, I could pick Dennis Rebeni, a failed Norwich centre forward, a guy less threatening in front of goal than a rusty sock. He somehow scored in a 2-0 win at Goodison Park before Christmas, but I have to go with Bruno Andrade, who scored for Lincoln when they were booted out of the EFL Cup 4-2 by Everton. This guy is a 26-year-old Portuguese centre forward who came through the same QPR youth team as Raheem Sterling, but while the latter went on to become one of the most dangerous forwards in world football, Andrade has instead found employment at Woking, Boreham Wood, Lincoln City and now Salford. The fact he managed to find his way past England's #1 this season, Jordan Pickford should probably feel mightily embarrassed. Leicester, Liam Boyce. I'm tempted to go with Yoshinori Muto, I really am. A completely forgotten Newcastle striker, lying stuffed down the back of a couch in the Newcastle training ground. He actually scored in a 1-1 draw with Leicester this season, but he's still not worse than Liam Boyce, who scored for Burton Albion in a 3-1 4th round EFL exit against Leicester. Sure, he's a Northern Ireland international who relegated Sunderland 2 years ago, but he's League 1 standard at best. list. For Christ's sake, he's currently in the books of Hearts in Scotland's second tier. If this was Danny Ward's audition tape, it's a bit like an X Factor contestant trying to eat the goddamn microphone. Liverpool, Jason Cummings. To be fair, not many substandard players have scored past Liverpool this season. But let's go back to the FA Cup 4th round draw at Shrewsbury Town. Liverpool were 2-0 up and coasting. Donald Love had just put it into his own net. They could have spent the rest of the game half asleep and they'd still have carved out a win. Or that's how it should have been. Somehow Shrewsbury came back. Jason Cummings, a former Hibernian striker and Nottingham Forest flop, came off the bench to score not once but twice. Probably the happiest day of his life. Man City, Che Adams. Listen, I'm tempted to pick Tom Pope. This is a guy who predicted he'd score 40 goals a season against players like John Stones. Listen, the fact is this guy plays for Port Vale and Stones could probably buy his house and rent it out as a public toilet if he so wished. But to be fair, Pope actually did manage to score the Etihad in a 4-1 defeat. Stones probably felt like chucking up a lung, but I'm not picking him. I know Che Adams is obviously a better player, but he's been an absolute £20 million flop for Southampton this season. His confidence had just been left down a sewer drain. So conceding a winning goal against a guy who hadn't scored all season and from 40 goddamn yards? I'm sorry, but that is too shocking to omit from the list. Man United, Dimitri Shomko. Okay, I'm sorry, there's only one logical answer for this one. Go back to November, when Man United somehow came off the pitch having lost to a bunch of part-time mechanics from Kazakhstan. Sure, it was a weakened team, but I'm sorry, no side representing Manchester United Football Club, not even the under 15s, should be losing to the likes of Astana. Just all kinds of disrespect. 30-year-old Kazakh international defender Dimitri Shomko scored an equalising goal. Any team who concedes a goal to this lump of meat sweat is just horrific. And yes, I realise he scored against the Irish national team in 2013, but we had Darren Gibson on the pitch, so what did you expect? We've conceded goals against San Marino Milkmen. This is what we do. Newcastle, Aaron Wilbraham. Okay, how did the Geordies actually think they had a realistic chance of winning the FA Cup this season when they couldn't even beat Rochdale over 90 minutes? This was a club whose idea of ambition in the transfer market was just ask Paul McShane out of retirement. Never mind £40 million centre forwards. The guy getting in the score sheet that afternoon was a 40-year-old journeyman centre forward. Wilbraham was playing lower league football for Stockport County when Joe Linton was getting spat over the uterus. 40 years old and grabbing an equaliser against Newcastle. I'm surprised he didn't pull his back out. Norwich, Berlul Labala. Good God, where do you start with the amount of players who scored against Norwich this season? Even each club's kitman and tea lady were probably in with half a chance of scoring past their defence. Again, back to the EFL Cup when 21-year-old Congo centre forward Berlul Labala, recently released by Birmingham, scores the only goal in a 1-0 win for Crawley Town. Sheffield United, Joe Linton. Yeah, I don't care, alright? Sheffield United have probably conceded to officially worse footballers in the Cups, but I'm still including Joe Linton. This guy's performances up front for Newcastle. He resembles a lower league centre forward every goddamn match. £40 million for a guy who makes Hosaloo look like an actually threatening centre forward, and he was a worse goal scorer than a bag of newspaper cuttings. Sure, they had 10 men, but I'm sorry. Chris Wilder's men losing 3-0 to Newcastle and conceding to this lump of stale tub of bleach, you'd swear they just spent lockdown unlearning the rules of defending. Southampton, Matai Vidra. Listen, Matai Vidra isn't a terrible footballer, but he's a striker in his prime with just 4 goals in 37 games for Burnley. Clearly he's not top flight standard. Anyway, he scored the winner Southampton in February, and to be fair, it was one hell of a strike. This guy got goal of the month. Tottenham, George Saville. Yeah, here's the only other Premier League team to somehow concede against Joe Linton this season. But no, I've still found a worse footballer. George Saville, hopefully no relation to Jimmy, is a 21-year-old bang average midfielder slumming the championship relegation battles with Middlesbrough. He did score at Tottenham's new stadium in January though, bundling home a consolation in a 2-1 FA Cup 3rd round defeat. I'm sure he's put that one on the fridge. Watford, Connor Jennings. Watford also have a fairly leaky defence. For Christ's sake, they conceded 5 to Tranmere Rovers alone this season. As FA Cup finalists, they clearly do not want another traumatic cup run, throwing away a 3-goal first half lead to allow Tranmere to force a replay before losing at Birkenhead. Connor Jennings, formerly of Stadium Bridge Celtic, Scunthorpe and Wrexham, the proper giants of British football, he scored in both games. He's currently Stockport County's latest marquee signing, and no, he's not very good. West Ham, Elliot Moore. Yeah, let's revisit the disgraceful West Ham showing when they're absolutely torn apart 4-0 by Oxford United. It's almost as if Manuel Pellegrini wanted to get the sack. 23-year-old centre-back Elliot Moore is the first goal scorer who was recently spat out of Leicester City after 16 years in the books. Clearly he's not very good. Wolves, Lucas Boy, the latest goal in the list. Yeah, Wolves ended up winning on penalties, but Christ, they should have seen the game out. 1-0 up against Reading, and then they conceded in the 99th minute, allowing Argentine winger Lucas Boyes, a pretty inefficient wide man with less end product than a melted toothbrush, allowing him to bag an equaliser. Not great. Anyway, that's it, guys. Let me know, are there any worse footballers that scored against your team this season? Let me know in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and as always, I'll talk to you in a while.